Hey guys, welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, I am so excited to be playing with this new NATASHA DENONA GLAM palette. This is something that has actually been waiting in my mailbox for me. I was just in BC on a little bit of a trip and now I am back. I'm actually super excited to play with some makeup today because I'm gonna be honest with you, it is the time of the month and I'm in so much pain and this is gonna make me way happier. That might have been a little bit too much for some of you guys, but if you're a woman, you get it. So if you guys want to know all of my thoughts on this brand new NATASHA DENONA palette, which ever since she made the mini glam palette, I've really wanted her to do a full size, so let's get started. Alright, so let's get right on into the specs of this palette. This is a 15 pan palette. It is her midi size palette actually. And you can see that this is extremely reflective. So this packaging is going to show fingerprints. So I find myself kind of, brushing it off and smoothing it out from time to time because it does bother me slightly, but that's just a preference thing. It's not like a deal breaker. But this is the same kind of plastic packaging that she's done with some of her other, with some of her other midi palettes in the past. So this is the Sunrise palette, and then more recently she's done the Bronze palette. This is the exact same midi size amount of product, and this does retail at 65 American dollars or 87 Canadian dollars. Now, you get 19.25 grams of total product in here, and that's the same as the Bronze palette and the Sunrise palette, so she hasn't wavered there. The thing that's different with this one is the overall cool tones of this palette, which is awesome. I mean, I really like it personally. I love the fact that it just screams kind of glamorous to me. It does remind me a lot of Sultry by Anastasia Beverly Hills also, so we'll get into a comparison of that. But this is a beautiful palette, and I actually do not have the mini glam palette, so I can't compare it. But what I can say is that her minis tend to be hit or miss. Sometimes they're great and sometimes they're not. For some reason, I was just really hoping she was going to expand the mini glam and make it into a full one, and so I waited on the mini palette, and I'm really glad that I did because this is now a full-size palette, which we totally all figured out. I think we predicted this like last year or something, and she absolutely created one just like it. I do find as a whole her midi palettes are actually fairly consistent, so it is a really good alternative for someone that wants to try her formula out but doesn't want to get like a big size palette like Lila or Sunset. Another big difference with this new palette, there are no shade names, which is very interesting. The shade names for each of these colors is actually kind of where you would place it on the lid. So it actually is more of a directional palette where you place it like some shades have on the center lid, some have brow bone, some have transition or smoke or things like that. It's basically kind of like a tutorial style palette where every single shade name actually has a position of where to place it. So it's kind of like one of those palettes that really helps you to place certain shadows together to give you a nice cohesive, like coordinated look, which is awesome. However, it's not my favorite that she's done it like this. Now that's just a preference thing for me. I think this is probably the first time that I've seen it like this anyways, so it's kind of hard to say. I do like that this caters to the beginner because it does help them kind of navigate a palette like this to put looks together, but if you're looking for something that you want to be like freely creative with, just ignore that. Put whatever shades you want with whatever shades you want. This also has a lot of shimmers compared to mattes. There are only 5 mattes in here, the rest are shimmers. That means we have double the amount of shimmers in here, which as a shimmer lover, I'm okay with. But if you love mattes, this might be something to really think about when it comes to investing in something like this. The shade names in here are like center eyelid, brow bone, lash line. There's actually one in the dead center of this palette called lash line, which is kind of like a charcoaly black color if you choose to use shadow as liner. This is not something that I typically do. I really like a bold eyeliner look, so I don't personally do this, but it's nice to have the versatility. There's also one called brow bone down here, which is kind of like a gold color. That is nice to put as a highlight for the brow bone to really kind of bring the look together and also kind of lift up the eye because you've got that little bit of brightness to the brow bone that just brings everything upward and gives you more of a youthful look. These shadows do pop out if you're interested. You can move stuff around if you want. You can put other palettes together with other palettes. It's really up to you. But the center eyelid shade, for instance, there's one up here and there's one here. They have the same name, but if you look at the outer packaging here, it does have like center eyelid 320M, center eyelid 332M. So 332M is down here, 320M is up here. So they do have different shade names within numbers on the packaging though, not on the palette itself. What I did was I actually went all over the lid first of all with the shade called Transition. There's only one in this palette, so that's good. It's nice and easy to pick it out. This is nice because it's just an overall like off-white shade. It just kind of helps to start anchoring this look together, just evening out any colors like vein colors or anything like that on your lid. I did prime my eyes also with the Smashbox 24-hour primer because it is my holy grail. So that was also a first step. Next, I went in with crease, very, very light beigey brown, and it was also something for me to just darken the look altogether. Now, she says crease, you can put it directly in the crease if you would like, or you can just do it like me and kind of do whatever you want. Just depends on what you'd like. These two mattes are super gorgeous. They are pigmented, they are blendable extremely, and they're buildable, which is awesome. And the one thing that I do like about these is just the ease of use. You can just swipe them on the lid, blend out super easily. I do love how she includes a ton of good mattes in her shadows. These two are very, very good. Next, we go in with the outer eyelid shade. This is 321M, which is on the top left-hand corner. This color I would consider kind of like a charcoal / gray. It's a very interesting shimmer shade, and this one does have a little bit of a texture to it. Applying it with a brush, it kind of leads to a little bit of fallout, but honestly not too much. Now you can wet your brush to really keep those glitter particles adhered, or you can use your fingertip if you want a little bit more control. Next, I went in with the center eyelid shade, which is a little bit more of a smoother shimmer. This isn't as textured as some of the others, but it does pack a brilliant spotlight punch to the center of the lid. It's very, very bright, which I like. And this is also one, let's see what this shade is. This is 329M, which is the middle row all the way to the right side. Also a very stunning, beautiful pigmented shimmer. I actually almost found myself wanting to apologize for the state of my skin, which has been going on in my mouth area, in my chin. You guys know I do get from time to time some hormonal acne there, and I almost wanted to apologize, and then I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to apologize. This is my skin. We're all normal people. We all have concerns, and I do get flare-ups from time to time. I was traveling. I had my mask on all the time, so it's bound to happen. So no, I'm not sorry for it, and if it bothers you, well, check yourself, guys. It's not a big deal. I hope that wasn't too cruel. That sounded a little bit mean. Overall, you do have a beautiful, cool toned silver gray kind of like platinum look to the lid, which as you can see here is very, very nice. I did pair it with the new Pat McGrath Lip Divinal Lip Shine in the shade Nude Venus because it has a really nice gloss to it. It's definitely a little bit on the lighter side, more of a neutral nude color, so it does make sure that my eyes really pop. Now, when I was applying certain shades, especially the mattes, I did find some kick up in the pan, and that's a combination of two things. One, that it's an extremely soft, creamy shadow, and it just kind of lifts up as you press your brush in. But I also used an extremely fluffy brush, so it does tend to kind of disturb the pressed powder a little bit. This is the Wayne Goss number 16, which is what I used at first, and I did find that it kind of lifted it up a little bit, so my palette got a little bit messy. Not a deal breaker, of course, but something to take note of when you are applying the shadows. Don't press too hard because you'll lift a little bit more of it into the air. Ease of use on this guy, you guys, insane. My first impressions are extremely high. This is something that if you love shimmer, if you love cool tones, especially silver, because that's kind of the whole idea behind this one, you will really, really love this. So now let's talk about how it compares to Sultry. Here we have Miss Sultry. This is from Anastasia at Beverly Hills. It is now discontinued. As you can see right off the top, we do have quite a few similar themes in here. Of course, the difference between them though is the fact that we do have this bright pink called Bloom in this palette, which is not in the NATASHA palette. This one has a little bit more, like I would say, diversity and variability when it comes to color story. That pink adds a different element to this palette. The Natasha one to me doesn't have as much of the variability. Obviously there's a ton of shades in here, so you can, like we do have some elements of pink up here, we have a gold down here. There's definitely some variability within this palette, but it doesn't have like a bold punch of a color like Sultry. So that is a difference between them. However, we do have quite a few similarities, as you can see. So let's do a couple swatch comparisons. Kind of looking at this palette, we do have Rose Quartz, which is in Sultry. It's kind of like a very shimmery, cool toned, like rose gold color. And I wanted to see how this one would compare to the shades in Glam. So as you can see, they are definitely different, with Inner Corner being a little bit more closer to Rose Quartz, but they are still distinctly different shades. So if you do own both palettes, that is good news. The next one I wanted to compare was actually Cyborg. This is right here, and this is actually one that I thought might have quite a few close shades because it is a silvery gray, which is kind of like a main theme in Glam. As you can see, Cyborg is very uniquely different compared to the two shimmery silvers in here. You can tell that Cyborg has much more of a white shift compared to the other ones that have more of a gold shift or more of like a platinum kind of darker gray shift. The last shade out of here that I felt had really any remote similarities to Glam was this one here, which is Steampunk. It's more of like a deeper bronze gold kind of shimmer. Center eyelid is very close, so as you can see, it is slightly lighter, but other than that, I think the look on the eye is going to be nearly identical. So this is a shade that I would say is the closest shade match from Sultry to Glam, but otherwise we have some fairly distinct differences between the two. They do share common themes though. Here are some swatches of the palette. Now, as you can see, they do vary a little bit from studio light to sunlight. So I always like to include both in my videos so you can see there is a little bit of a difference. With studio light, you can see they're a little bit deeper, obviously, but then with natural light, they have a little bit more of a shine to them. But these are beautiful shades, very cool toned, of course, which if you guys love that, you will love this palette. But I would say that my first impressions so far are super solid with this one. I haven't run into any major concerns when it comes to application or swatches or anything like that. I do think this is very promising, and I think that this is a palette you can feel pretty safe investing in if you are wanting to get a Natasha palette in your collection. Let me know if this is a palette that is going to be on your wish list. Of course, I'm going to do a full update when I've tried every single shade in here in a future hits and misses. I do have a lot of other Natasha Denona reviews if you guys are interested. I've reviewed bronze in the past recently, as well as some of her other palettes. So I will link some of my Natasha videos for you in the description box. And until my next one, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay safe. Bye, guys.
But somewhere there's a light inside of us. It shows the way.